Hello everyone, welcome to this third workshop. And today I wanted to talk about, we wanted to talk to you about the controls within the game maker, and also we wanted to start talking about creation processes. So I know the controls are something that we already tackled in the very first workshop. But as you may know, if you were there, it was a very long one. So we thought it would be interesting to break down things a bit more and focused on that. And not only controls, we wanted to talk about like habits of using the game maker and basically the do and don't. Um, so let's see. We have a quick summary of what we're going to get through today. We're gonna get through first the map creation. I'm guessing pretty much a lot of you already know how to do that, but at least for the newcomers, it will be quite interesting, I think. In the second times, like I said, we're gonna go into the controls and the one that you're going to use the most. And finally, we're gonna have an introduction to creation process. So keep in mind that all the points that will be talked about in the creation process will be worked into more details in further workshops. So this, once again, is an introduction about that. Try to give you some kind of a pipeline to help you kick off some ideas that you could have in mind. And obviously, we will finish with a Q&A with all your questions. So um, as every time, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them right away in the chat in order not to forget about them. And I will go through all of them at the end of the presentation. This presentation should last for around 1 hour. Um, I'm guessing we're gonna have 40 minutes for the three first part, and we're going to keep 20 minutes for the Q&A. But I don't know, maybe the first 2 points will go quickly, so we'll see about that. So first of all, we have the map creation, and I'm gonna move straight away to my game maker right here. And as you can see, I already have like a good amount of maps created here, and I even have a map I created for the workshop today. But I'm not going to open this one. I'm going through pretty much all of what you have here. So first of all, if you want to create a new one, you have two ways to do it. Either this square right here or the button on top of here. Also, you have the possibility to start with a template. So templates are being updated often, especially thanks to our level designer, Guillaume, who is taking care of that, working directly with the with Rodolph's team in order to introduce to all of the different features that we have. So you can either start with those in order to have the feature that you're looking for, or you can try and move along to something more um, uh, with an aesthetic, a different aesthetic that could kick off what you want to do, or maybe do like some kind of a quick preparation. Then you have the draft galleries. So obviously you cannot use those to um, start an experience, but the draft galleries it's all also here in order to get some ideas from other people. So it's quite convenient. And then really quickly, I mean, it's not really part of the map creation aspect, but I just want to emphasize on the fact that you have all the settings on the top right corner, where you can choose pretty much whatever you want. Um, it's always nice to say. So let's dive into the create new. And as you can see, you have different ways, different options, sorry. The first one will be your name. So today it's going to be workshop #3 live, because we're live right now. Then you're gonna have some theme, empty, lake, desert, nether. So in a way, those are almost a bit like the templates, but you don't really have like a visual coming out of it straight away. So I would advise to start with an empty map if you are starting like a brand new experience, or if you want to start with something already existing to go through the templates. I think it's for the better. And then you have the size of your experience. So as you can see, we have the possibility to make like up to 4x4 lens, but keep in mind that as we are still in alpha, we are still working on the performance, and we would strongly recommend to cap your creation to a 2x2 lens. And if it's your very first experience, you should definitely start with a 1x1. 1x1, as a reminder, is 98 by 98 by 127, no, sorry, 96 times 96 times 128 in height, which means that you already have plenty of space, especially in terms of verticality, to create some very interesting experiences. So that's what we're going to do today. We're gonna choose a lens size that is 1x1. All right, so when we arrive in the scene, we have many stuff to go over. So I will try to go over each and every individual details and try to explain how to use them properly. Um, so let's see. Um, let's start with the buttons. So as you can see on top, you have the home button. It's to get back to the previous menu. Then save, you also can do a Control S, it works as well. Undo previous, Control Z, Control Y. You have the rule panel in order to create the quests. We'll go back to that a bit later. We have the global parameters, which include a lot of aspects, very important aspect. You can either choose to start with the player's avatar, which is basically the player's avatar, but you can also choose a custom avatar. And then in avatar model, you can choose whatever you want in the library. Let's go back to player avatar. You can add some tags. It can be useful for the logic, but this is not today's point, so I'm just gonna stay on that. And then you can select your equipment when you start. I usually try to start with nothing, in order to have something very, very clear. I can construct from the very beginning. This is basically a foreshadowing of the creation process that I will talk about later. Then you have your camera. So the third person is the most finished one, if I can say so, but you can also try some different type of gameplay with the first person, some angled camera or top down. And once you choose one type of camera, you have all different parameters that you can change here. I want to emphasize quickly on the camera, on the fact that when you are making an experience, you not only have your avatar, you also have the camera following along. And with many reviews that I did before, it seems that creators tend to forget that not only the avatar has to go somewhere, the camera has to follow as well. So this enter a very important aspect, which is the 3C, camera character control, and you want to make sure that your metrics will be adapted to everything. So your character, it would mean like how high the character can jump, how far, if he's running or not, and basically it's the same with camera. With the basic settings, I always try to push for, if you are in interior, you're gonna want to have a corridor that is minimum 5 by 5 blocks in height and large. It's really, really important. Anyway, let's move along. The controller, everything is blocked here because we are based on the player's avatar. But if we are choosing the other type, the custom avatar, you will be able to change the controller, which can be interesting. Also, you can add some components to your avatar, but we are not going to dive into too much that today. Once again, it's not the point. And finally, you have the ambience. So you can select your lighting and even some basic sounds. Why am I going through all of this? Is because this will be part of all the basic concept of creative process that you want to go through. You want to choose and pretty much freeze all these global parameters first in order to start to create your experience. Obviously, we all know that throughout experience creation, there are some tweaks that are going to be made, but those are really important. All right. So now we are currently in the editor type of option, and then we do have the play option. We can either click on it or use the tab key, and if I do so, I am now in game. Press tab again, and now I'm back in the editor. Here you have all the buttons necessary to publish your map. You can either publish it to the draft gallery. So this is the tab that I showed you before. You just have to enter a name and a description if you want to. Also, as you can see, the thumbnail will be taken from the point of view of my actual camera. So if you want to actually have a nice screenshot for your experience in the draft gallery, you're gonna want to put your camera in the right angle, and then hop. Now I have like a better screenshot. And then you have the world publish, but right now it's not something that you will necessarily go into. We are limiting ourselves to the draft gallery today. So let's see on the left side of the panel. Here we have different aspects that will be very important, of course. These are basically the tool. So right now I am in a paint tool, and paint means basically I can paint some blocks. So on our side, we made the choice to choose, and I know I already said that before, but some people weren't there. So we are doing some trinomial type of approach for the artistic direction. So what I'm going to do first is try and have something very nice and smooth everywhere in order not to be influenced by the green herb that there is everywhere. And also in the sandbox, it might not be your choice, but in the sandbox, we try not to use textured block like this one. We prefer to use like unique color type of block. And then with blocks, I can do many stuff. I can draw them using my left click. I can delete them using my right click. Also, if I hold my left click and hold shift key on my computer and I go up with my mouse, you can see that I can take I can go on the height, so it's quite interesting. And then once I have that, I can have like bigger block, but I don't have to do that only with one column. I can definitely start by drawing a nice surface, then press shift, go up, and now I have like a nice shape. All right, let's continue with that. With blocks, let's say I want to have a little area around the player where he starts, and I want this to be some kind of a representation of a grass field. So I'm gonna press Control, and with that, I'm going to paint over the current blocks that we have here. that way. Nice. Perfect. Then I want to add a bit more details because I want this to have more, yeah, interesting shapes. So let's see. I'm using my second color here with my quick toolbar that I will go back to later. So let's see. There, something like that. There. All right. As you can see, it's pretty organic. I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing. I'm just trying to have some nice shapes that goes all together. Something like that. All right, looks cool. And then let's have a final touch with a more clear color, like so. Something like that looks good. And as you can see, it's already creating some nice shape. It's way more organic and more realistic in a way. And so once I'm done with that, what I would advise to you is always to play as much as possible. The player, they will never see the inside of the game maker. They will never see the scene. They will see the game itself with the avatar. So this is what you want to show them. And as you can see, I'm pleased with that. So that's cool. All right, so right now it's pretty flat in my opinion, and I want and try to do something with more like height. So I'm going to get back to my painting tool, and there are some other aspects here that I want to introduce to you. Those are shapes for the paint. So right now we were in free, and it's just one block, and use the shift and control thing. We can do a lot of stuff, but you can also have like diamond. I can change the width, height, and depth, and as you can see, I can have like, let's go back with this one. I can have like this type of pyramid shape. Also, I have cubes. So the cubes are quite interesting, especially for your metrics. I kept that cube on the side because, as you can see, it's a gridded one. And let's say I want to have areas that are 10 by 10. All I have to do is keep my width and depth to be 10 and my height to be 1, so it will nicely shape the ground. And then as the free one, if I press Control and put it on the ground, no, it doesn't want. All right, my bad. So let's do the other way around. Let's delete beneath it. No, once again, it's not working. All right. So it's okay, it's not a problem. I'm just gonna paint over like so. And with that, it's perfect because I know I have a perfect 10 by 10 square just right here. And with that, I have the opportunity to create specific zone with specific metrics. And knowing that a land, like I said before, is 96 by 96 by 128, it can be quite useful to divide your experiences in even parts. So that's cool. All right, let's go into free mode again. I will delete all of that by starting with this one, going all over, right click. I hold right click and then everything is deleted now. Now I want to show you the sphere paint because it's one that I tend to use a lot actually to create some shapes, especially the mountains and this kind of aspect. So as you can see, I'm going with like 10 by 10 by 10 because it's for me it's like a perfect one. And the cool thing with that is that if I paint that way, I can create some kind of a odd shape. And there we go. We already have, as you can see, like not a mountain for sure, but we're getting there, and it was quite quick. So let's continue with that, with the sphere. Let's see. Want to have some kind of a mountain over there. A bit more that way. Nice. And keep in mind that we are doing some additive blocks here, but you can also subtract in order to have more organic shape, like so. And the good thing is that, let's say I have my mountain here, but I also want like a river. I can do exactly the same, but with subtract that way, and then my river is almost ready. There we go. Perfect. All right, so let's finish a little bit this area to have like nice place. And keep in mind everything that I'm doing right now, because this is basically foreshadowing for the whole creative process that we're going to talk later about. So as you can see right now, I'm only using the blocks, and it's very nice because it took me basically 5 minutes to have almost a simple world that could make sense. But clearly, we're missing some stuff here. We're missing some assets. And this is where I'm going to introduce you, even though I'm guessing a lot of people know about it, the library. So you just have to click to press the L key on your keyboard, and now you have plenty of assets available. So there are plenty of ways to find your asset. You can choose them by rarity, with some theme, maybe by gems if you need like specific asset with specific gems that could be useful for the logic. Once again, we're not getting into logic right now. Categories, and even by name. And then on the side, you have basically the one that you own or not. You can choose by blocks, which is very, very interesting, of course, because you have a lot of different type of blocks. So I already chose here mine for today's workshop, of course, but you have a lot of different things that can be quite useful. Let's see. You have the lava one that is used a lot. So let's go back in free mode. Sorry. Let's say we want to have a bit of lava coming down out of here. So I'm gonna basically draw over and simulate like a cascade of lava that way. There, and then let's draw around here. Nice. And now we have lava coming out of the mountain. And the cool thing with lava is the fact that it's there are not blocks with collision, so you can get inside. And as you can see, nothing is happening right now, and it's normal because we have to set the lava, especially in order to get hit. But I don't want to get into too much details right now. I wanted to talk about the assets. So let's go into entity, especially. And let's say I want to make some kind of a little garden. Garden is cool. So I have my asset now linked to my mouse, to my cursor. And then if I want to, I just have to click left button and I can put them everywhere. It's definitely something you can do. With that, you have something quite organic. But in that specific case, I want to do it in another way. So what I just did there is I went into the selection mode on the side, and then I drag and drop my mouse in order to select all the assets present here, and I just have to delete them using the suppress button on the keyboard. Let's get back to green cabbage, and what I want to show you is something very, very useful. It's really the level designer talking right here, but we tend to like to stay on the grid. It's a thing. Staying on the grid is quite convenient because it means you are keeping your metrics straight. So here, as you can see, I have a little square around my cabbage, around my item, and it basically shows the size of a block. And if I hold Shift button, I now have my cabbage following around the grid. So it's quite good. So with that, I'm gonna prepare a little garden. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then I want to have red cabbage to add some diversity. And then I want to add red onions. And so on and so on. So yeah, that's good. Let's say I want to go to something else. So you have the search bar obviously, and here I want to find some wooden fences. So let's try with fence. Let's see what we have. We have the desert fence, the wood fence, but the desert one are quite nice because I think they really suit the idea of this little garden. So I just put one using Shift again, and the cool thing is that once I'm done and having my item inside the scene, I have many ways to actually duplicate it. The main one would be to do Control D, which is Control Duplicate, and as you can see, I now have my item duplicate, and I just have to press Shift again and put it right on the side. Don't worry if you see some asset disappearing from time to time. It's a little issue we have on our side, and that is being worked on, so don't worry about that. Here I can select one asset and select another one by holding Control, and it will add up to all the asset that I want. If I click again on it, so once again I said it disappeared, but they are still there, don't worry. And I can even duplicate those two. So let's go for that. And let's say I want to create a corner. Here I'm gonna introduce to you the rotate function, the rotate tool, sorry. And I can either use the horizontal axis to rotate my whole thing, but I want to make sure that the rotation is done properly, like 90 degrees. So I'm gonna hold Shift key, turn around, and there we go. As you can see, it's working well. There. Alright. Another aspect that can be quite convenient is the fact that if you hold one of the gizmos, whether it's Y, X, or Z, you can hold it, and while you are moving the asset around, you can hold Control and then press Control D, and it will duplicate your asset that way. And this can be quite convenient to create some big structure quickly and evenly. That's the most important part, obviously. So here I selected all my assets. I hold my gizmo, hold Control, D, then D, then D. And now, as you can see, I have like a big, nice wall of fence. Obviously, this is a bit overkill, but it's just to explain your the idea of all of that. So let's see. There. there, and there. All right. So let me check real quick on my little paper if I'm missing any information for you. The draft, the publish, the main scene. Yeah, there is something important I forgot to talk about is how can you properly um, navigate around the scene. It might sound odd, but there are some very simple tricks that will help you go around and be way more efficient into the creation um, of your experience. So first of all, the main thing you want to have is use your scroll wheel button on your mouse. This is like one of the most important part. Why? Because if I hold it in the middle of the screen, as you can see, it will move my camera around. And this is very, very useful. So usually how I tend to work is actually scroll and use the scroll button to move around. But there is also another aspect that is very, very important. And if there are some 3D modelers around us, they will understand straight away if you hold Alt button with left click, you can see your camera will rotate around 1 point. And this is even more important and interesting while you are selecting an asset and you focus on the asset by using the F key on your keyboard. That way, I now have my camera focused on that asset, and if I rotate around, I will rotate around my asset. So as you can see, it's very, very convenient. F button, Alt, hold left click, and you can wander around. Quite convenient. Am I missing something? Yes, of course I am missing something. You can also use so I'm sorry, I have an AZERTY type of keyboard, so on my side it's gonna be D, sorry. But if you are using those, you can, as you can see, move, basically like your avatar is your camera, you can move around and move forward or backwards. And if you hold Shift button, you will sprint with your camera. This can be useful from time to time, like I want to go somewhere and then. So it's up to you, but at least you have all the information that you need for the navigation. I see real quick in the chat that someone asked me to repeat the Control D command. So sure, no worries. The Control D command is quite straightforward, but it's just a bit tricky. There we have the fence. I just select one fence or one asset, whichever you want. Then I select one of the gizmos. And then once I have the asset moving around that way, I hold Control and then I press D, D, D as much as I want to. All right. So let's see. We put some assets in the scene. We saw the navigation. We saw the blocks. How to paint them. How to add some verticality. So that's already quite nice. You have like already quite a lot to create some very simple experience without even logic right now. But let's see if we can do something more. Yes. I had something also that I witnessed while testing a lot of different experience. It's all about like the organic aspect. How can you make something organic? And usually what I have is people putting down some trees that way. Right, so I just selected some trees there. And then you just take the trees and you want to make a forest out of it. Sure, no worries. Let's use the technique that we used before. So we have those 3 trees. I select all of them, and instead of using one of the gizmos, I will use the central gizmo here that allows me to move them on a simple plane. That's quite convenient because I want all of them to stay on the same level. So now that I have that, I just have to press Ctrl D and D and again, and voila, we have almost a forest. But as you can see, this forest, it's not really organic. Everything is very straightforward, and it's not really what we want to have. So let's select all of our trees, and there is quite a simple trick. It's use the R key on your keyboard that will randomize the rotation of your tree. And then, all right, now it's getting better. And if you want to even have something even more organic, you can like take one tree, put it like underneath the ground, like this one, and let's say you want one to be a bit higher, so let's add up a little bit of block, and it's perfect because doing so, I will introduce you to yet another quite interesting shortcut, is the N key, and the N key will take the asset selected and put it straight away onto the ground, onto the next block. So if I press end, there we go. We have our asset that's being perfectly on top, and I don't have like to go near it and be like, okay, am I? No. End button, and that's it. And then once you are done with that, a little bit of adjustment and polishing. Away, something like that. And if I press play, and I have something way more organic. Right. So, that's cool. N key. What do we have next? Tap to start again. Cool. Plug here. Okay. Cool. All right. So basically, in terms of control and shortcuts and the do's and don'ts, I think we're pretty much done right now. Yeah, let's stop for that today, and I want to move back to my presentation. So as you can see, we talked about the controls, and now I want to dive into the creation process. I see I've been recorded for 38 minutes, so I think I'm going to go fast on this one. Keep in mind that this is some kind of a foreshadowing. It's some kind of a teasing for the future workshops. So let's dive into it. I want to precise that this part of the presentation has been made thanks to the help of Mark Stephenson that is helping us on creating some process within the sandbox. So thank you, Mark, for that. And this is the basic of agile process. Basically, you want to break down your production into different chunk that we call sprints that are defined throughout like a specific amount of time every time, and those sprints are being reviewed in order to move forward to the next part of the creation process. So how do you break down that? First of all, you will have your concept. In this phase, well, this is one of the most interesting phase because this is the creation part. You get to understand all of your guidelines that you have around. It can be some technical limitation, or it can be limitation from a client or an artistic direction. You name it. It belongs to you. And with that, you can create some mood boards in order to give some image to your team or even to yourself to be inspired to create a map. You can also start on paper or using like Visio or different software that you would enjoy to create some 2D layouts and try and start to create some spaces, some 2D spaces. In this presentation that should be available to you later, I put some different websites that you can click on that can be useful to find some images as an inspiration. I think it's always very important. The second aspect will be the blockout. So keep in mind that in the concept phase, you can definitely, and I encourage you to go into the game maker and make some tests. You definitely want to check the spaces and how it feels within the game maker directly. But once you are done with your inspiration and you know basically where you want to go and you have basically architect 2D layout, doesn't have to be that precise, but in terms of intention, you can start your blockout. Blockout is a very simple approach of let's put our volume together. Um, so usually I personally start always with like the first thing that the player is going to see. What is it? Is it something that is it his next goal, or is he in a closed space and he needs to get a quest? So these are the questions that you can ask yourself. But the blockout is basically what we just did before. It's a bit of texturing on the ground if you want to. It's creating the verticality of the mountain. You can even use a bit of asset if it really support the vision of what you want to do. But basically, your blockout doesn't have to be beautiful, it has to be functional. And also a blockout is iterative. It means that you can definitely do 1, 2, 5, 8 blockouts of a same vision, because that way you will make sure that, okay, this is working for sure, I need to keep it, or this is definitely something we should not use, but at least you tried it and you are sure of it. And that's what you want to do with the blockout. So in a way, the blockout is quite connected to the concept, but once again, it really depends on different uh, like teams or project. The next step will be the logic. Once you have your volume, you will want to have something that is functional. You will want to try the gameplay. So here, you want to take basically what you have in terms of rule. The game designers, to simplify, the game designer will give you some rules, and as a level designer, you can use those rules to make the better out of it in an environment and make it fun. Um, and this, once again, is a lot of iteration, but not only iteration, it's balancing, it's trying to make sure that the experience works well for everyone, for your target, audience target, etc. Of course, an experience would be nothing without the art and the different artists. And so we have the level artists who can dress the map according to the artistic direction, but also thanks to the artists that are creating the different assets. And this is a very important part, because you will travel from art to level design a lot, because those are two different vision. If to simplify, the level designer want to have functionality, where the artists want to have basically the beautiful aspect of the map. So obviously neither one or the other is completely right or wrong. The whole point is try to find an in-between that will work either for art but also for the game design and the functionalities. So personally, this is my favorite part of the job, is to actually communicate with artists, and in other production could be even programmers, and to make sure everything is working out. Once you are done with your experience, you want to make sure that it's completely bug-free. So the idea is to go through quality assurance. So it depends really if you have a team available or not. But basically, what you want to do is make sure that your experience is being tested, and not just by you. You want this experience to be tested by a lot of people. It's tied to the next point, which is, sorry, oh, no, I didn't put it here. So it's tied to another point, sorry, that is the playtest as well. So quality assurance, the quality assurance is really looking for bugs, where the playtest, it's more about the user experience. Those are very, very important data that you need to keep in mind in order to improve your map. And sorry, I spoiled it, but in order to do some polish of your map, keep in mind that this picture is not from the game maker itself. It was just to represent the idea of all of that. But really, you want to go into extra polish, but also keep in mind that polish, it's a great cost because it asks you more time, and sometimes in a production we don't have that time. So it's really important to try and have something that is working from the very beginning. And yeah, I think I reached the idea of a creation process. It was a bit fast. I'm sorry about that, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to actually ask some question around in the Q&A. So let's dive into the Q&A. You can write everything in the chat. I will write them. Becky cannot really talk right now, but she asked me to give you a bit more information. So on the 11th of May, Wednesday, we're gonna have another Q&A session at 3 p.m. CEST. And then the next workshop, the fourth one, will be about creating a social platform race, some stuff that you might have seen in the different alpha season. This will take place on the 18th of May. And also I have a few links to share to you right here. First one being the expert creators private group link and with the join link. There. All right. Let's dive into the chat. It seems we don't have that much question at the moment, but so I explained a bit more for the control D, so it should be good. Yeah. Sorry if it's a thing I have. All right, so this is not a silly question, don't worry. There is no silly, no such thing as a silly question. So basically, we don't have a scale system within the game maker, and it's quite simple actually. It's because it's based on voxel assets, and those assets cannot be scaled through that. It's just the way it's made. I'm also guessing there is something to do with the NFT, in a sense that what if you take like an NFT and scale it like in a huge way? So it's not something doable, but we can try and see, like, if you require within your experience to have a tree that is actually higher, you can ask either your artist or look into the library to have a tree that is actually higher that way, for instance. So I have this one. I want to give it a go that way, there, and then it's not really organic to me, so R, and then as you can see, I have better silhouette with that. All right, is it possible to add interaction to individual avatars in the game maker? So for example, only one avatar can activate a moving platform. So I'm guessing you are talking about like the social multiplayer aspect, and right now, no, it's not possible to do so. It's either you have you are in solo and you just have your avatar performing the action, or you are in multiplayer and all the player can activate the button pretty much at the same time. So it's not possible. Sorry about that. Any more question? We still have a few more minutes. Like we have still 5 minutes don't hesitate. On my side, I'm going to add up some ideas that I had. Let's see. What about the light? So you've got a global light that is casting shadows in the trees. If you would like to change that shadow direction, is it possible? So that's a very good question. At the moment, it's not possible to change the direction, but right now I'm in neutral. So you really have to take into account, like, let's say you want to go with a desert or no, sunrise. Sunrise is interesting because, as you can see, the sun is very low. So if you want to take advantage of the shadow, you definitely want to take into account the position of your sun when you start. So for instance, if you want your shadow to be that way, you're gonna want your character maybe to start on that side. That way. So for example, if someone to rent houses to other people inside the plot, would it be a way? So I'm not sure it will work that way directly. I think it's more tied to the lens. This question is just a bit out of my league, and I don't want to give you like bad information. So maybe I know Becky, you can't actually talk vocally, but if you have an answer by writing, that would be amazing. Is it possible to hide the blue icon where the character appears? Actually, no. This is a request that we did a lot. So let's say you want to take a nice screenshot of your experience. You're gonna want to put the spawner somewhere else, and this is quite specific here, but yeah, like something that way. But if we are talking screenshot for instance, for the this one, I'm not sure. I think it's not taking into account this. Let's see. Yeah. For instance, if you want to share your experience, you can take a screenshot everywhere, and it won't take into account the UI, which is good to know. Okay. We are slowly reaching the end of this workshop, so I want to thank you all for participating today. It was very nice. Some great question, and this workshop has been recorded as always, and will be uploaded onto YouTube, and we will try to make the presentation available as well. We will keep you updated on that. No worries at all. As a reminder, next workshop will be a Q&A session on May 11th, and the workshop number 4 will be creating a social platform race on May the 18th. So please keep that in mind. It will be quite nice, I think. I'm sure.